that this sort of situation with this kid. Clearly, this one isn't as good as Dark Dungeons, the comic strip they did about Dungeons and Dragons.
Clearly, nothing is as good as Dark Dungeons.
But it's sort of amazing that you have this sort of idea that once you let go of any sort of morality, as soon as you stop taking the camera out of the sky on you. I find that it's just amazing. The same condescending Christian character at the end of the show, at the end of the comic strip, always the same. And this is kind of related to another one. This is a villain in a comic book. This is actually a Punisher Wolverine comic from 2004. The character is actually called the Atheist. And he actually gives a speech at one point about how not believing in God gives him the moral license to do whatever he wants.
Which I should just point out, I personally don't know any atheists who share that worldview.
I have never
who think, well, I don't believe in God, and that means I can do anything I want to anybody I want without any consequences. I don't know any atheists who think that way. I certainly don't think that way. And I do not feel that that is an accurate representation of the huge majority of atheists in the world. Just so we're clear on that point.
Yeah, you don't see it. I mean, it's kind of amazing that you don't ever get. If you look at the per capita population in jails versus the general population, atheists are actually slightly less in jails than they are there. That you'd think that unless we're some sort of criminal mastermind, that we get away with every single crime we commit. You'd actually see that represented. There aren't any atheist riots or any atheist killing. You don't see that speech anywhere except in stuff written by fundamentalists. And surprisingly, even by a number of liberals and moderates who hold this sort of belief that, oh, if I didn't believe that, I'd just kill people. I don't believe that for a heartbeat that people think that.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, who else we got?
Oh, bring out one.
Oh, I've got a few, huh? You may have read a book, perhaps, very popular book called The Pillars of the Earth, written by a guy named Ken Follett, a popular writer of usually mysteries, and this was the first historical novel he wrote. Big, huge novel. It's a big one. And there are lots and lots of characters in The Pillars of the Earth. Two of them stand out because they are kind of sort of main characters. Their names are Ellen and Jack. And these two characters do not believe in God, which is unusual. The book is set during the 12th century in England, so it's medieval time period. And at that point, obviously, it was hard to find anybody who didn't believe in God, but especially...
Because if you did, they'd be burned.
Right, especially in a small community like is depicted in this book. What I think is interesting about Ellen in particular as a character is she is depicted as being very intelligent. She speaks and reads 3 different languages. She's very self-sufficient. She really takes care of herself. And she's also depicted as being really desirable to all the men in the book. She's a hottie. And everybody likes Ellen. Well, not everybody likes Ellen, but Ellen is an admirable character, while the majority of all the other characters in The Pillars of the Earth are religious. And it's also, I think, very important to point out that really only the bad guys are ever depicted as being negative or flawed. Even the religious characters who are main characters and who would be considered protagonists are still depicted as great, wonderful people. They're just people who have a different worldview from this character, Ellen, and to a lesser degree her son, Jack, who also is not a believer. So another interesting atheist in fiction, a medieval woman who is very self-sufficient, takes care of herself, and highly educated, and who does not believe in God.
I am going to put on my geek cap right now. You're probably going to get some full frontal nerdity, and I've been told I have to sort of limit my nerdity on this one. But I'm going to talk about 2 characters from the recently remade series Battlestar Galactica. Actually, the cool thing is because I can actually compare and contrast them. The first one is Gaius Baltar, who is a scientist who, in a lot of ways, when he's first introduced in the series, in the miniseries back in '03, he was kind of the stereotypical scientist, atheist character, where he's very self-absorbed, he's lustful, he sleeps around. He's probably the most narcissistic character I've seen in all of fiction. That he gets involved in a relationship with this woman who turns out to be a robot. She's a very advanced robot, clearly.
I hate it when
Otherwise,
that
the
happens.
relationship probably couldn't go that far without finding out. It's like, oh, you seem to have a zipper. But anyways, through her, he accidentally gives her he intentionally, but gives her basically the launch codes for their defense system. And she uses them to wipe out humanity. And the fun thing is there actually is a scene that sort of encapsulates this character completely, where he's sitting there in a daze watching news reports before the cameras all go down in a Holocaust, and spotting mushroom clouds on the horizon, and all he can talk about is what's going to happen to him when they find out that he did this. And he just keeps whining, and she actually says to him, you know, well, your civilization is crumbling around you, and all you can seem to think about is how this affects you. The fun thing is that very later on in the series, he becomes a theist. And unlike they managed to take the typical trope that he becomes a better person and turn it on its head, that he actually remains a cowardly, self-absorbed, arrogant jerk for most of the series. That even when he becomes a cult leader, he doesn't actually seem to really believe in anything aside from God and himself. And that he just hangs around people because he's basically burned every other bridge except for these people. And because he has nowhere else really to go, and they feed his ego.
Well, let this be a lesson to you. Don't trust a fembot.
Yes. And he's kind of counteracted with one of the main characters of the series, which is William Adama, who's the commander of the Battlestar. It's like basically an aircraft carrier in space. His atheism is only mentioned in passing. It's never really mentioned as something that makes him sad. And actually, he's one of the characters who has a really strong sense of character and integrity. He's the exact opposite of a fair-weather friend. He's somebody who's willing to go to war with a commanding officer because his men are being basically put on trial, a sham trial, and they're going to be executed. He's willing to go to war with not only his commanding officer who's in a more advanced ship, but he's also willing to put up with the problems of the people around him. And some of his crew members and friends are very self-destructive, but they're very good at what they do. And he sticks by them through that. He's able to overcome his prejudices and make moral decisions, though at times he's capable of doing some incredibly shady things, considering he's basically defending all that's left of the human race, which is a group of people that's smaller than even the population of Auburn. I think that at the end of the show, it's like 39 human beings are left in the entire universe. Frankly, he's also willing to use torture as a tactic. He was willing to hold a gun on the spouse of one of his people who was going on strike. So there are things that he does that are incredibly shady. And I think that's always one of the great things about that show, is that it was about asking those sort of hard moral questions and not giving an easy platitude answer. So.
Yeah. I've got one. Most of us, most viewers, I would assume, or maybe not, I probably shouldn't assume, it is public access after all. But some viewers out there are familiar with an animated show called Family Guy. It's been on for a number of years. There's a character on there called Brian, who's actually a talking dog who lives with or belongs to this family, and he is an atheist. And Brian is actually depicted as being the most intelligent and most rationally thinking member of this entire family, which is kind of an interesting take, to have the dog be the guy who has all the brains. But there is actually an episode where Brian comes out as an atheist, and the family does not take it particularly well. When she finds out, the mother of the family, Lois, I have a quote here from her, says, "It's one thing to bash organized religion, but we believe in God in this house. I mean, an atheist, that's just about the worst thing you can be." So anyway, Brian the dog goes on to share more of his thoughts with the family, and the teenage daughter, Meg, has a little bit of a meltdown. But before we discuss that, let's go ahead and take another call. We've got Shane from Shoreline. Shane, what do you got for us? Shane? Hi!
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Shane, what's going on?
Just been here watching your show.
All right.
I'm so inside on the phone that I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you all actually have a symbol that you put on a tombstone for members of the military that are atheists. And there's actually a lot of religions out there that still haven't gotten that approved past the VA.
Yes, that's true. We're having kind of a hard time with your audio.
But I think I kind of got the gist of what you're saying, is that this has always been a weird thing with military funerals, is that they have the cross, they have the Star of David, they even have a crescent. But what do you put on a headstone when you're an atheist? And I know there's been a number of people who've tried to create an atheist logo with varying success. I know that Dawkins created one that looked like sort of the A from A Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. There's some various different A's. Some of them look kind of cool. One of them is there's the American Atheist one that actually has the A